Sixth, it's interesting that the transit loop extended up to those medical facilities. There's a whole series of doctor's offices and what have you up at the upper end there. So it was interesting because it actually cut a valley, and the majority of people said no, extend it up to the medical facilities. That one, 7, we didn't do anything on 7. I can't show you anything on 7 right now, but 8 is an interesting one, right? Stop 8. Stop 8 was one that had, and you will easily recognize this one. This is Witherspoon Street and the Northern Gateway, the City Hall, the Board of Education facility. In the middle here is Franklin Avenue. Here is the Salt Dome. There is Clay Street housing, and you notice it literally got a red all the way down. It needs improvement along that whole edge. And they wanted it to be a green street, which, of course, there was a lot of ideas for that. And that has not happened, at least as of yet. Anyway, a big one here was focused on the municipal parking lot. That big one where they just installed these electric charging stations. And you know, you've all used it. I certainly have used it a lot. There's the potential section through that one, which means it could have some non-residential at the bottom, which could be civic, housing up above, and parking back that would not only accommodate the housing, but would also accommodate intercept parking coming into town. And then you immediately hop onto the golden loop. So here it is. There's the site, as you can see it in the base plan. And this is what it's a simple U-shaped building, 60 feet wide, stepped, green roof, double loaded corridor, parking below, and 2 levels of parking at the bottom level. And it's that section that I showed you just a couple of seconds ago. So that's that one, and that's the program for it. But then it gets to be more interesting as you move across the street. This is a building that's been sitting there for a while, lots of controversy, but then it's wrapped around by beloved Conte's Pizza, and there's a fire station and what have you, all of which were designed around. Now, the Valley Road School building, I find that building absolutely fascinating. And there's been a certain amount of discussion on that particular building. And so here was the kind of the footprint, if you will. I'll make that slower if I can. There's the footprint, again, the standard kind of 60-foot wraparound that could or could not be as part of it. But what's fascinating about this one is that it is more or less the same concept with a couple of 3 kind of mid-rise, but I'll say mid-rise, maybe 6, maybe 7-story focal point buildings. But you can see what happens here is that not only would you have parking across the street, but you have parking on the back corner in the Conte's parking lot, if that got developed, again, surface parking. But one of the things that came up fairly strong on this one is people really like this building. And particularly, so the doodles start out with, what happens if we just save that whole front facade? Let's just save that whole front facade. And they, oh, no, it can't be done, it's too expensive, blah, 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 blah. I heard that over and again. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, you come from Europe and they save damn near everything, and they build around it. There's no reason why it couldn't be done here. And then you simply build on top of it and around it. And then you do something with Witherspoon Street, which means you actually paint the street to make it look like a plaza, and you connect both sides of the street together with a plaza that's painted on. So people going, what are we looking at? I'm slowing down because I'm not sure whether this is a street or if this is a plaza or whatever it is. So people slow down, and that's been given. And in fact, if you go to Lowe's, at Route 1, you see they paint it in front of the thing. Just paint it on. We believe that could be possible. Anyway, that turned out to be fairly interesting, and that's the program for that one. 9 is, and I'm only going to focus on one thing, not on the Franklin Avenue site, because that is, Chris has got that under construction, but the Salt Dome. Now, the Salt Dome has come 2 ways. One, it came out of the Witherspoon-Jackson visioning process, where it became the #2 ugliest place in town. The #1 ugly place in town was the fence that the municipality owns between on Paul Robeson Place, which the town owns that fence, but refuses to do anything about it. So you got the ugly fence that separates the town from the rest of those folks over there. And that is something that should be done. But the next one was this one. And by the way, Paul Robeson came up, it's pretty negative too, but thank God, both my contributions and lots of other contributions are really making that place change. But this is really ugly. I mean, this is really inappropriate. And they go to number 2 voted ugliest building in that area. So there it is from the aerial perspective. And it's kind of interesting. And you want to leave the school parking, you don't want to take that away. So you just focus on that particular lot. But one of the key factors, that's what it looks like in the front. So there's no continuity there, even to get, if kids are walking from the neighborhood, they have to walk on the street to get to school. There's not even a sidewalk there. I mean, not even a sidewalk there. So again, the same notion of what works best, semi-public, let's plant a beautiful row of trees, let's raise it half level above grade, stoops and stairs with balconies in the front. And then, you know, for those people who are, that you need to have a ground level access for ADA to be able to get to the other sets of apartments. So that's the aerial. That's the sketch. Again, so it's a variation on a more traditional use with a tower on the corner, which occupies the corner and gives the corner some variation, and a little kind of plaza green space garden in the middle, so that everybody's got access to a small amount of green space in the middle. And again, I'm going to just bypass this. 10, 11 is right at the corner of Bayard and Nassau. It's the old municipal lot, which the Einstein alley, the Einstein Museum is proposing, and we have sketches for that. The parking lot behind Bank Street, and of course the seminary site, which I don't want to touch. I mean, you know, we did sketches for it, but we're not going to touch that one. But this one turned out to be the most interesting, I think, of all of them. I think the one downtown, the shopping center, and this one, maybe the municipal company, but this one turned out to be, this one just was unexpected. When we did the susceptibility to change, you can notice the whole parking lot area around the train station all became red, but also the other side, about 100 feet into the golf course, became red. And the first thought was, ew, what would happen if we would develop along that whole golf course? And then so I talked to some of the people from Princeton who are kind of friends, and they went, I mean, they were like flabbergasted. No way in God's name, are you ever going to develop our golf course? Okay. We'll stay away from the golf course, right? But what about the other side? Well, the other side, that's fine. That's fine. We'll just deal with the other side. So here's what's the thought. Not only do you have a train station that literally has nothing around it for all practical purposes, it's you know, what people wanted was a more intelligent transit center. And there's no doubt that in the notion of transit-oriented development, this could happen. Now, this one was a shock both to me and I think it probably will be a shock to you. But if you look at it now, this whole thing from there's the Lewis Center, there's the Wawa. This is all parking lot. This is all parking, and it's on a hill. So here was the first thought: what happens if you develop a series of mid-rise buildings overlooking the parking lot across that green space, right next to the train station, which would be incredible, and put all sorts of parking both below grade and what have you to accommodate the existing and intercept parking coming into the town. Well, that was a pretty good idea. And then went, well, what about this one? If you look at Deborah Burke's new campus, that's just got highlighted in several national magazines. What happens if you do the kind of the twisty thing that she did? But on the other hand, what happens if you build these buildings and then tie them all together to kind of make a coherent urban neighborhood with killer views over the golf course on one side and killer views of the university on the other side? I mean, it would be like right at the train station. It would be like numero uno fantastico, right? So then you look at it and say, okay, let's see what this thing might look like, right? So remember, it's up on the hill. So that's one of the great things about it already. And it's got a big parking lot in the back, so it's really nice. So this is what the first thought was of what these 4 buildings might look like. But what happens if we made them completely green? What happens if we made them completely green? Wind generators on the roof to really create something that would be really quite extraordinary. And then let's put all the parking below. Now, you know, maybe it's just, and this was done well before Francoise and I spent our last 6 months in Europe. Every city that we have gone to Europe, you park underground. Period. Under the sidewalk, under the plaza, whatever, you park underground. And sometimes they're a little bit tight, but be that as it may, they tell you where to go, how many parking spaces are going to be there. You know, you get the red and green lights, it tells you where the spaces are empty. They're painted and they have classical music in them. I mean, it makes parking a kind of a nice thing. As opposed to if we went now to the Chambers Street parking garage, it's asphalt, it's dirty, it's black, it's never been painted, there's no music, and it's pedestrian unfriendly. I mean, come on, there are ways to design parking structures which could happen. So here, the columns would be at the bottom of the columns, and ended up 540 parking spaces. You just set cars before they get in, that'll pop onto the little golden ring, and go any place in town you want instantaneously, right? Now, let's take it one step further. Why do we then need parallel parking along Alexander Street? What happens if we took the parallel parking off of Alexander Street and simply did a double row of trees to create a fantastic alley along that street and a bicycle path? That's something that could happen, and of course that's the service. Again, there's a big program for that one. Okay, now this I'll go through the end and then I'll just turn it over to Kevin.